I'm Rob, and welcome back to the Uncut Network. Here we dive in everything from cult classics and hidden gems to the names and widely specific genres that deserve more love. And of course, things you can enjoy without endless questions from your family. A varied movie diet is a healthy movie diet here on Uncut. From Stephen King adaptations to the Skarsgård Brood by way of Lynn Ramsey, no stone is left unturned. And to unpack it all with me this week, I'm joined by Sarah. Hello there.
Hello.
I can't remember a lot of people. How many people came in? So let's just go free form. Andy.
Hello.
Mike.
Hello.
And James.
Hi there.
How are you all doing?
Yeah,
Alright.
pretty good. It's Thursday.
Been good, eh?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
made loads of bagels today for some reason. No particular reason.
Excellent.
But,
It's
just
not the
Bagels are
sort
always
of early existential terror I was expecting, really. Especially with the weather we've been having, I was expecting some horror story there, you know. But no,
Yeah.
bagels. I'll happily trade that for bagels any day of the week. Be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe the most horrifying thing is mundanity.
Oh. Deep.
I don't want to segue out of that because it feels like I'm doing a dirty to the director. I don't really want to do that. But James has set a trap for me, a perfect little trap.
Didn't mean it that way, sorry.
I have to bite. So this time out, we're doing a horror favourite of modern horror. Michael Flanagan to his friends, I assume. I don't know. So let's just go around the room. Sort of, he's been one of these names been around for a while. So which is the movie or the series or whatever that got you on the hook for Mike Flanagan, Sarah?
Oh gosh. I think it was like I was somewhat aware of him. Kind of like I heard about Oculus and then Ouija Origin of Evil. People were like, oh yeah, this director. But I think, like many of us really, Haunting of Hill House is really what kind of just cemented him as like this guy we should be paying attention to in horror. And I mean, really, I am very proud to say that I am a Flana fan. I would say like everything of his.
Is that the term?
I don't know if it's an official term, but it's either Flana fan or Flanagan.
I'm happy with either.
Take your pick. But yeah, I think it's like nothing that he's done. Oh no, computer! Don't ask me to update right now. Sorry. Yeah, everything of his that I have seen, I have thoroughly enjoyed. But we will be talking about one of my favourite things from him today, so I'll pause there.
Okay. James, I do recall him appearing second, so yourself, the same question.
So I first experienced Mike Flanagan, my horror-loving bestie and I went to see Oculus in the cinema, and it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We were the only ones in the cinema, so that was a nice experience as itself. But when we came out of it, we were both like, that was actually really good. Like, we didn't have much expectations going in, but after that, it was just like, wonder what else he's going to come out with. And then after that, it was the ones which really hooked me into him was Hush. I believe that was his next film, and I just remember being pretty impressed with it. And since then, what I've seen, I've adored of his.
Yeah. I didn't realise he did the first. Was it the first Ouija he did?
He did the prequel. So there was Ouija, and then there was Ouija Origin of Evil, which was the prequel.
Yes, I'm getting confused because brains are a thing. Yes. Mike, yourself.
Yeah, I think I remember being resentful of him for a while because I think people tell me about Haunting of Hill House, and then people tell me about it. It's like, oh, it doesn't sound anything like the book. What the hell is he doing? And then I heard some things about Blind Manor. So I'm not watching that. It sounds like that sounds awful. And then I finally got around to watching Midnight Mass. I was like, oh, this is good. And my housemate, who is not particularly a horror fan, but he's a big fan of Mike Flanagan, which I think is an interesting thing. That I know a lot of people who don't tend to like horror, but they like Mike Flanagan stuff. So I would then watch the series, The Hill House and Blind Man, and like them. And yeah, I've sort of I haven't watched all his films, but I've been catching up on some. And yeah, I can say for them, I'm always excited to see what he does next. And he feels like he's the king of our age. I feel the Stephen King of our age.
Well, yeah, he's worked a lot with Stephen King as well, which I'm assuming is going to be a link that I've just sort of sneakily set up for Andy yourself. Who would it have been for you, or which one?
It would have been Hush. Yeah, I know we'll go into more detail with it, but I came to Hush quite late though, so I think I'd heard about sort of Haunting the Hill House, and then decided to check it out. So my wife's not very big on horror, so I thought it would be good to just try and get maybe something. I thought it would be like scare free watching Hush, but I didn't realise how gory it was going to be. So I convinced her to watch it, and she wasn't happy with me. But yeah, it was. It would have been Hush. Would have been the first one, and since then, just kind of kept track of him. And you mentioned Stephen King, and he's got a few irons in the fire with Stephen King, as well as having covered some of his other stuff as well and done it really well. Used to be Frank Darabont, I think, was the sort of go-to King guy. But that seems to have moved on now to Flanagan, which is exciting because he's done great stuff. He's like translating really difficult King books onto film.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. But Life of Chuck does not look like a Stephen King adaptation, but that's his latest one, isn't it?
Yeah, a short story.
Yeah,
it's from. I can't even remember the books that it's from, and he's also working with Prime, I think. It might be Prime on the Dark Tower series.
Yeah,
TV show.
Yeah, he's got Exorcist. Apparently, he's doing next year.
Aye,
and he's.
I'm cautiously skeptical about that, but then again, I was cautiously skeptical about Blind Manor because I was just like, oh, for goodness sake, another take on Turn of the Screw. How many have we had of that? This is just going to be absolute. But no, then loved that. So, so Flanagan has proved me wrong a couple of times. So I'm happy for him to prove me wrong again.
Well, we'll loop around to talk about the TV episodes at the end of the show because we can't not talk about them. They are so important, really, for Mike Flanagan. But the three movies that we're going to be doing in order, I assume, because it works out quite nicely, sort of like building up. Hush, Gerald's Game, and Dr. Sleep. So, Hush, we will start with that, which was from 2016. Oh, that feels like an age ago. But who wants to? Yeah. I mean, the first time I heard of him was Absentia. I didn't know who it was. I just saw the movie doing the trailers. I never watched it. Still haven't watched it to this day, but I really think I should. It's
interesting.
It's nice to see where
I don't count it among his best, but it's interesting, and you definitely do see some of the groundwork for what he would later do.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'll catch up with that then. But yes, Hush, who wants to take I mean, it's a fairly straightforward synopsis, but who wants to take a stab at what Hush is about?
I can go, I've got it here. A deaf and mute writer who retreated into the woods to live a solitary life must fight for her life in silence when a masked killer appears at her window.
Yes, it's very straightforward.
That's it.
There's two versions of this, isn't there? There's the 2016 one, and I think it was the shushed edition that he did last year, which omits sort of all of the sort of score and
it's black and white as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm assuming we haven't seen that one because it's.
No, I wasn't aware of that one. That's kind of cool.
But yeah, I don't know if has it been released yet? I don't know. I know it was that like Fantastic Fest or something, and then they are.
I think it's coming to
Blu-ray.
Shout Factory, but since then, yeah, it's just festivals.
Yeah, because it had been in sort of the wilderness for a while, hadn't it? It'd been came off Netflix, and then they just announced last year that it was getting. Was it getting a 4K release as well? And
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and getting digital as well.
So, what are our feelings on Hush, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I really like it because, I mean, Home Invasion is one of those things that, like, you know, it needs to have something fresh to it to grab my interest, and I think that, you know, it's having this person who's deaf, who's mute. Like, she has to approach this situation from a very different way to how other people would, and I think that keeps it interesting and it keeps it tense because there's definitely at least one thing where the guy is behind her or coming into the room behind her, and she has no idea because she cannot hear him, and it just ratchets up the tension. But it's also just like, it's so well done because, I mean, you're just in this house and it is so tight and so minimal, but it works so well.
Yeah. James, yourself?
I think very much when you've got a filmmaker trying to establish themselves, you very much get the idea that they're going, okay, we'll do something small, something that can really show we don't need to go big or anything. This can just be a good calling card for what may come. And I feel like Hush is very much a good calling card for what Mike Flanagan would later on do. And I believe, yes, this was quite a small film because I believe they filmed bits of it in his and Kate Siegel's own house as well.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so
possibly that rings a bell.
So it's going to be interesting doing a home invasion film in your own house, having to live with that afterwards.
God, yeah.
That's a very good point. Yeah. Mike.
I think he's a good point. Yeah, this feels like this is Mike Flanagan before he becomes Mike Flanagan. You know, this like, because 2016 was a busy year for him. He had like 3 films out in 1 year. Like, apparently, like this, Before I Wake, and the Ouija sequel, I think. So this is clearly like him, like trying to prove himself and go like, hey, look at me. And it was just before, like, Hill House is probably when he like really took off. So it's interesting to watch something like Hush, which is like quite straightforward, quite stripped back. And has that thing of, I think he's quite similar to Del Toro in that he seems like such a lovely guy, and it's like, oh yeah, you just him with like, oh, nice films, and then you forget how nasty he can be, and he can do some like really horrible like body horrors, so many injuries to hands.
What has he got against hands, man?
I don't know.
He's a big old goofball, Mike Flanagan. He really is.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, he's like putting his wife through the absolute ringer. What a trooper. It's a really solid, and I think I enjoy particularly like the villain, just being a guy who's just like terrorizing her for no real reason. He sees a deaf mute woman and decides, oh, I'm gonna have fun with this, like an absolute psychopath. And yeah, so I think I enjoyed that sort of that darkness of it. I think it's again, easy to underestimate. You don't necessarily think of like a scary dark director, but he can do it.
It doesn't do it like The Strangers either, where the whole point is we did it because you were in. I think that's the point of the first, at least. But yeah, it's just he's messing about with a deaf woman, which is probably worse, honestly.
Yeah, keeps a tally on his fucking crossbow. Which is nice. I mean, it's nice that we don't know much about. I've some people complain that you don't know much about him, but that makes him scary and it makes him more interesting because he's like, who the fuck is this guy? Why acting?
There's the bit where like the neighbor's husband shows up, and you're like, oh man, it's that moment where you're just like, oh, okay, is this gonna? And then he just takes him out, and doesn't he pretend to be a cop as well?
Yeah, it's what's funny because not even like in uniform, just like in normal. It doesn't change anything. He just literally just how he just literally just the way he talks, the way he acts is enough to momentarily convince this guy he's a cop, which is a really, really scary. Just how easy that could be. And I mean, there may be some commentary in there somewhere. Like, because the guy's immediately like, "I'm just reaching for my wallet to show my ID. Don't shoot me," basically.
Maybe. Andy, we'll segue like Kate. Is it Katie? I never remember her name. Kate or Katie?
Kate Siegel.
Kate Siegel. What do you think of her as the lead in this, really? Because she is consistent throughout his career.
Yeah, I think she's good in this. I was doing a bit of sort of background research, and there was criticism of some of the ASL she was using, like it wasn't accurate and things like that. But and that's another part that we can come on to maybe a wee bit later. But I think she's engaging enough in it. She does have a stoicness to her that works really well throughout this, and I think it's something that when I've seen her in some of Flanagan's other stuff, she does have that about her. Yeah, I think she's really good. It must have been a difficult thing having not had the experience of being deaf and mute to try and convey that. And when you are, for pretty much 90% of this movie, the camera's focused on you and having to make sure that you are trying to convey that, I think she does it really well.
I think the interesting thing about her character as well is other movies may use her as a victim, but she's deaf and mute, but she is absolutely not. She kicks ass, honestly. It's
like she's very practical, very methodical, like the way she kind of like thinks out the different scenarios of what she could do, because she's a writer. She has that, I think she calls it like writer's brain or something. So she really thinks through every possible scenario. And I mean, one of my favorite things about Kate Siegel is her eyes. She just has the most expressive eyes. Like whatever she is feeling, you see it. And I think that works really well for her here.
Yes. What can we lead from that? James, your feelings on Kate Siegel? Building on that.
I have no issues with Kate Siegel, really, across her roles in Flanagan's works, but here I feel she is a able-bodied actress who's playing a deaf-mute character, and that's not optimal, let's say. But in regards to how she performs in the role, I feel she does pretty well. I feel she gets across very well just how frustrated she is at her writer's block, and how when she's got to essentially fight for her life within the confined settings, just the determination and the fear which peppers through, and how she's just very much got to find her way to stay alive against this vicious piece of shit. And
he's both vicious and a coward, isn't he? He's a weird killer.
Yeah, he has that line about how saying he can come in at any time and get her any time he wants. It just feels like the kind of arsehole who just wants to be in control all the time.
That's we get that great moment where she like dabs it with blood and writes on the mirror on the window, "Just do it." And he comes in, and she basically Home Alones him when he steps into the house. So that's the thing of it. He just completely underestimates her, and actually just it's sort of hypercompetency meeting incompetency, I guess. To some degree. Yeah.
It's nice that this. Sorry, just Kate. It's nice that it's sort of uniformity, because there's lots of people who can't stand her at all.
I know someone who hates her. Can't understand her. Yeah, I have a friend. It doesn't like Flanagan in general as well.
Oh well, yeah.
She's still my friend.
Sorry, yeah. Andy, you were going to say?
Yeah, he's just very opportunistic as well, isn't he? Obviously, you see him killing another Flanagan alumni, Samantha Sloan, just because she's went to Maddie's home. He's just taking that as an opportunity. But as you said, Rob, like, he is cowardly. When he comes face to face with John, he's very aware that he's not going to be able to win in that fight because John is a big guy. I think, as he basically just says, "Yeah, you're huge. If I had to fight you, I was pretty much done." And he was going to be done for as well if Rob didn't. Don't you bleed out, Rob? But if John didn't bleed out like 10 seconds too early, yeah, it was quite cowardly. And it was interesting that so early on, you know, Maddie writes, "I've not seen your face. You can go." And he just decides, right, well, I'll take my mask off then.
Yeah.
For me, actually, on a rewatch, it kind of lost a wee bit there. Like when he takes the mask off, seeing his face, because he's just a bit. Yeah, he's a dick, but he's not particularly menacing. With that, I just thought the mask was really striking. You know, a white mask and anything sort of.
He was
the mask.
He's one of those.
The mask is cool.
Who's been about. He was the other guy in 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yes.
Yeah,
And,
he's so
in,
sweet in that.
Short Term 12 as well. He was in that too. So to picture him as
John
sort
Gallagher
of,
Jr.
This,
That's him.
the slasher guy. He just doesn't have that image, does he, Andy? No.
So who was in 10 Cloverfield? Oh, right. No,
The guy.
I've got it.
Yeah.
I was thinking
The
of
guy who's
Cloverfield
not
and
John
going,
Goodman.
That's
Oh, right.
The one who's not John Goodman. There's Mary Elizabeth Winstead, John Goodman, and him.
right.
Oh man, Mary Elizabeth Winstead would have been great in this as the killer.
Oh my god, imagine.
Yeah, but
Very much.
it's compelling how it keeps the sort of momentum, doesn't it? Because you think it's got 3 people. Well, no, it's 2. And a cat, I guess.
Mostly,
a cat called Bitch, I think, is it? I thought they were being
yeah.
mean to the cat, but that is actually the cat's name.
Yeah.
Which is a name, I guess. But it keeps the momentum, which is... It's a very neat trick, isn't it, James, would you think, to keep this momentum moving for such a small movie?
It's only, 82 minutes? And it keeps barreling on. It never feels like there's a moment where it's just like, come on, are you ever going to get moving? And I think of what Flanagan does really well is what I quite like about Edgar Wright is how there's a lot of setup in it early on and it absolutely pays off later on. So it's like there's obviously her alarm in a house, which is used very memorably at the end. And then there's how she has multiple endings for a book. And then when she's thinking about essentially the endings which could happen to her, like if she runs or if she just hides out, and it feels like it's very much something where all the pieces are there and it flows very well across the film itself.
Yeah, I thought it was a really great scene where it is just playing out the kind of different ways she's going to die, basically, is the way she's seeing it. I thought it was a cracking scene, and it's something that, with it being a sort of single location as well, they can sometimes drag even if they are short. And Flanagan in this, and then maybe slightly to a lesser extent in Gerald's game, but you can see the sort of roots of this for what he's going to be doing in Gerald's game.
Definitely.
I just remember hearing years ago my dad telling me he wanted to go and see a movie called Phone Booth, and thinking there's no way a movie set inside a phone booth would be able to work in a single location. You know, these things, and it's the way that directors can be sort of ingenious with the way that they're able to convey a story that is so maybe not uniform, but it certainly wouldn't necessarily be something you think would work as well, and this is kind of similar in that way.
Well, it helps with Hush. I think he uses like every bit of the house. Like we go up on the roof, we go under the outside floorboard, we go into the bathroom, into the attic. He literally uses every single space, and again that probably helps because you're even though she knows this house, obviously you're exploring the house, and it does that well. That good sense of space, like when he's sort of going around the outside, or like when she's like running around locking the doors at the beginning. It gives you that sort of mental space of where things are. Yeah. In a way that you don't notice while you're watching it. But again, especially when it gets into the house.
That is a sign of a great director, I feel.
Definitely.
Giving you a sense of the layout because there's certain directors who could make a scenario like this, and it's just incomprehensible because you don't know where anything is. You don't know the lay of the land, really.
Yeah.
I was going to say something there, but totally brain farted.
It's yeah.
Pick up. It's gone.
If it's it shows you that he's able to keep that tension, and there is enough character background for Maddie. Like, she's secluded herself, and she's got friends, she's got family. I think is it her sister she sees on the
Yes,
on the phone. She's got a boyfriend that she's possibly had maybe recently broken up with, or there's snippets of her background, and for such a short movie to give quite a deep characterisation for someone who is deaf and mute, it works really well, and Flanagan does a great job with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about movies that use people with disabilities in them sort of levels to craft a very strong filler. Because there was one from a few years ago, a Korean one called Midnight as well.
Yeah.
I can't remember the specific disability in that case, but that was incredibly tense, having that sort of a normal scenario play out, but with somebody who's potentially less well equipped to deal with it.
He was deaf, I believe, in the film.
Yes, you may be right there. Which was a good film as well. I recommend people check out Midnight too. That was very tense.
It's different as well because, recently, Rob, when we spoke about Del Toro and we covered Mimic and how autism is used in the 90s especially not particularly well, and as plot devices, but without giving them any sort of real agency. The difference in the way directors now treat people that have a disability, and their characterisation and their ability to, in this, fight back, it's commendable, I think, and it shows that we've certainly at least moved a wee bit on from it, even though this was nearly 10 years ago, which is scary.
It's the magic autistic kid from the 90s to about 2015, that sort of trope lasted.
Yeah. God.
Yeah.
With that, the Good Doctor, I think, is the nadir of that, which was just...
Yeah. And there's that Predator film as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, that was... that would have been after this, wouldn't it have?
Yeah. So it still lingers around. Yeah, but I think I like to think that it's probably Mike Flanagan. I think it's probably a cost thing in terms of like having Kate Siegel rather than a deaf or mute actress in. I think probably most likely, especially because I can't remember her name now, but she's really great. He's worked with disabled actors before since, and is one who's in Midnight Club and House of Usher, the Irish one whose name I can't remember. But she's really great.
I know the one you mean. With the
Yeah, so it's like it's something that I think nowadays he would definitely be more conscious of at this point. He was limited. So but it's interesting that him and Kate Siegel wrote this as well. So Kate Siegel was a writer on this. So clearly they sort of had some. They clearly put some thought into it as well. And like you said, I think he treats her like a character. It doesn't treat, as a character with a disability. It's like, it's a disabled character, and this is what she does. What I mean? It's like how she lives her life. Which is admirable.
It was something that I had just I saw it in passing, that there was just a bit of criticism because I think they were saying the ASL wasn't used properly. Now I can't speak for any experience with that,
sure.
So I think it was the actress from A Quiet Place had a go at it.
Okay, interesting.
And I just skimmed the article. I didn't go into detail with it, but they did address it as well. They did. We'd maybe do it differently now. It's not done in a disrespectful way that could have been handled.
For sure, yeah.
Because I think it would have been so easy for John just to come in and save the day with a lesser director or a lesser writer.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's also expecting an awful lot of it. I mean, you probably never imagined it'd get the sort of exposure that it did.
For sure.
It's just the thing he did with his wife in his house. It's a very...
Absolutely, yeah.
Small scale thing.
For sure.
Any closing thoughts on Hush, Sarah and James?
Just see it. Or rewatch it if you haven't watched it recently.
On that, it is quite difficult to find because I think it was a Netflix production, but I found it on.
It's on Shudder now.
It's on Plex as well, which I saw it, which had some very badly timed adverts. But James, any closing thoughts for Hush?
Watched it on Plex, and just the timing of random adverts during what's meant to be tense moments was a choice. But you know what? But I think it's a testament to how good the film is that I was still gripped and tense despite those intrusive adverts.
Yes, and it's usually for some terrible product it's trying to hawk in the middle of somebody doing a dying speech. It's like, cheers.
We kind of mentioned it a wee bit there about the hand trauma, and this is like a hand trauma trilogy we're discussing. And what has he got against it? That's just it's awful.
I can only
especially
assume
an ESL character.
Maybe he was traumatized by Thing in the Addams Family. Or something.
I was thinking like Empire Strikes Back.
In this one, isn't it? A hand is trapped in a door, and then he slams
it against the door. Yeah, and then he stamps on it. It's so cruel.
Oof. Yeah, mucky pup. So yes, that is Hush, and that's a great segue to the next movie talking about hand trauma. With a movie that can be described to a lot of people as the degloving scene, 2017's Gerald's Game. Who can describe the movie around the degloving for this one?
I'll give it a go.
Go ahead.
So Jessie goes with her husband away for a weekend in the hopes of revitalizing the spark in their marriage. During a sex game, they try a bit of handcuff play where Jessie's cuffed to the bed, but then her husband has a heart attack, which leaves Jessie in a precarious situation that leaves her wondering how is she going to get out of this, contemplating on the past, and just leaves audiences wanting to give Carlo Gugino a big hand.
I think we have to approach that first, don't we, before we talk about the movie at large?
Oh
yeah.
How do we feel about the degloving?
I'd read the book beforehand, and it was already horrible in the book, and so that's why I put off watching this for so long. Because I knew people talked about it before anyway, but I was just like, I don't want to actually. It's all right enough reading it, but I don't want to see it. And it's just horrible.
If you've not watched it before and you haven't seen this and you're watching along with us, she has to pull her hand through the hole of a handcuff, and her skin comes with it.
She cuts into her hand in order to make it easier to pull up, and then it's not even the worst thing. It's almost worse that it's not the whole hand. Like it's just like a couple of fingers worth, and it's
a lot of skin and muscle and sinew gets exposed. It's lovely.
I mean, top-notch practical effects there.
Oh yeah.
Because every time I mean, you guys can see me. It's just like thinking about it, I kind of shudder because it's so nasty. I think I first watched this film in lockdown, kind of thing. So yeah, I'm watching this movie about a woman stuck in the house. Well, I'm stuck in the house, although thankfully not in that situation.
There's a nice dog. So.
Wow.
But I mean, for years, I'm pretty sure this book was considered like unfilmable.
Yeah.
And it was, and I think I do recall when it said like, "Oh, Mike Flanagan's going to make Gerald's Game." I was like, "Okay, good luck with that." From what I've heard of it, and no, he pulls it off. Oh no, bad choice of words. That was not intentional.
Amazing. Brilliant. Can end the podcast now.
It's yeah. I mean, with the degloving scene, he does make you watch. He makes you watch. The camera doesn't move. You watch her cut herself from not top to tail, but she cuts through right up into the palm of her hand as well. And then the camera lingers on that, and it lingers on when the skin starts to peel off. And like what Sarah was saying, I don't think I ever finished Gerald's game. I read parts of it, but I think from what I remember, it's kind of inner monologue-y. Sort of, it's her consciousness. Sorry, is sort of jumping between her and Gerald, or her a projection of Gerald, and yeah, it's again, I think, talks to Flanagan with his ability, and again, mostly one setting. There is flashback scenes that are out with the kind of holiday cabin, but yeah, I think he's done it again. He's done a great job with it. It's just it's certainly one of the stronger King ones that we've had in recent years.
Because this is first King adaptation as well. He captures that. I don't know how to describe it beyond the specific Stephen King internal monologues, where it's like in italics and stuff. Yeah. He captures that so perfectly, and to get that off the bat on your first go. And again, we talk about Hush. You sort of see a little bit with when she's going through the ending scenes, but he manages to bring that to the screen so well, because the book is just an inner monologue. It's like, how on earth are you going to make this cinematic? And finally makes it work at all. It's a miracle.
Segued into that. So yeah, James, feelings on Gerald's game in general, and beyond the hand scene.
I really like this film. I think it's a pretty, it's understandable why people were like, how are you going to make a film out of this? But I think it does very well, because you've got a strong enough story there. It's just a simple premise of one character trapped in a precarious situation, nobody around who can help, but it's also very internal, as she's confronting memories that she has repressed and how they've affected her into her adult life. And that's also brought to the forth because she's imagining conversations with her dead husband, which can't be bad for Bruce Greenwood. He gets to walk around shirtless throughout. And she's also imagining herself there, or a version of herself. And it's kind of like they're an angel and a devil. One's going, you can do this, you've got next steps to do, and the other one's going, oh, what's the point? And is very much dissenting voice in it. And just to loop back around to that scene, I think what they do very well is throughout have questions about how Jessie, the lead character, acts and how she runs away when the going gets tough. And then through going through the degloving, it's like that's the moment where she decides she's got to be proactive. She can't just lay down and accept the situation. And I think that's what really makes such a scene feel... It could have been just gratuitous, the thing which draws viewers in, essentially, but I think it works thematically, and it leaves quite an impression, because I was watching this on my laptop last night, and my fiancée was led right next to me watching one of her soaps. I was essentially really dreading this scene, and when it came, I was turning the laptop away, because if she caught sight of it, it would have just ruined Emmerdale or something. And
there's not much degloving on Emmerdale Farm. Maybe. Never watched it.
I'd watch you more.
It survives quite well, though, just on that degloving, because there's another movie which has a similar sort of huge centerpiece moment. Bit older of a movie, 127 Hours. And both of them sort of have that as a centerpiece, but also aren't defined by it, which I think is the mark of a movie like this.
Yeah, plus James Franco deserved it, so it's fine.
He absolutely did, yeah.
His best role is when he burst into flames within 5 minutes of Alien Covenant.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's you're talking about Bruce Greenwood, by the way. That guy was 61 when this was filmed. If I'm looking like that at 61, I
Wow.
will be very grateful. Or 60,
That's
maybe
my
60
one-
when it was filmed, but 61 on release. That's
Yeah.
Silver
Yeah.
ball.
That's my one. That's one nitpick in the book. It feels like he's meant to be grosser. It's like as soon as he cast Bruce Greenwood, it's like, well, he's not. He can't be that bad a husband. Sure, he's
He's Bruce Greenwood.
he's Bruce Greenwood, and it's okay, he's a bit horrible.
it's
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the working of we've had so many horror movies that are talking about trauma that I think especially around about this time, it could have been hard for it to stand out as well. And I think it's not generational trauma, like childhood trauma that is then manifested in basically three different characters in Jessie's life, and her essentially battling them through. She's battling her past, her present, and I don't know. You wouldn't say future certainly with Mr. Moonlight, but
Well, she's battling her past and present in order to have a future.
Moonlight Man, isn't it?
it's
Yeah. Which Moonlight Man is something I wanted to bring up.
Oh yeah.
Moonlight Man, Mr. Moonlight.
Because thematically it makes sense, because she's on multiple levels. She's losing her mind. She's not had anything to eat. She's basically drinking through a piece of paper, a tiny little glass that she can barely reach. So she's fully delirious, and it seeds in this idea that something is coming for her. Maybe it's death. Maybe it's something else, and it gets called the Midnight Man, played by David Lynch regular. Carl Stuckian,
Yes.
a big 7-footer.
Amazing.
And for me, I think it kind of jumps as far as the flow of the story, it jumps the shark a little bit with him and his inclusion in the whole sort of postscript bit. But
Yeah.
I can understand that. Yeah.
on first viewing, this is the first time I've seen it, so maybe it works better on a rewatch.
okay.
I don't know.
I kind of agree with you. Again, having not finished the book, I don't know how prominent he is in it. But I think it's in terms of thematic purposes for this, it's for her to face to finally sort of put a nail in the coffin of the abusive men she's had to deal with, really, isn't it? Like that's if it hadn't been a book, that's what it seems to be. She goes to his. But if we're jumping ahead and getting to the end,
Trial.
it turns out the Moonlight.
Is it like a trial or something?
Or sentencing or something.
Yeah. He's basically he was I think he was a necrophiliac, and then also but then he was also found to be a cannibal, and he'd killed his sister and her boyfriend, who he called Mum and Dad, and he then. Yeah, so he was basically. It's the trial. She turns up, and it's almost like to put a pin in it for herself, and she sees Henry Thomas's dad and Bruce Greenwood's partner, who she has went to. It seems that she has become sort of entwined with Bruce Greenwood because of similarities to her dad. That maybe the trauma's not fully bared out on her. And if it wasn't a book, then you would say that maybe why the Striken's character was put in as that thing. But I'm speaking just as the movie. I think you would see it as that anyway.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've read the book. I do remember. I think it was the same explanation in the book, but I don't remember it being as explicit that it's what he means to her. If that makes sense. I think the film leans into a bit more. Again, that's my memory of it.
It's like little bits as well where he says, "You're not real. You're made of moonlight." It's kind of weird. It's a weird way to end the movie, I think.
I think that's him just remembering her, though, isn't it? Like, because she says that to him in the bed when she sees him the first time.
She didn't think he was real, and he kind of didn't think that she was real. Kind of like he thought that he was hallucinating her at the same time in a weird way.
And he can break out of chains randomly. Like he's also super strong. Like, why not?
Yeah, I think the story worked well enough without the Moonlight Man. I think there's thematic elements to him, like at the end when she's essentially confronting him and just going, "You're smaller than I remember." I feel like there's stuff, but doing it through the Moonlight Man, I don't know. That just feels like putting a hat upon a hat.
I mean, he does feel like a character who could have his own movie, almost Long Legs style movie, really. But
Prequel.
yeah, it's just weird here. But any sort of other thoughts people have, closing thoughts on Gerald's game before we move to the big one of the night?
The world's most traumatizing therapy session.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, just a little.
Also,
Also, I love that Mike Flanagan keeps casting Harry Thomas as bad dads. That's such a weird niche to put the kid from ET in.
Is that who that is?
Yeah, it's Elliot from ET.
Wow. I didn't know.
Yeah. I don't think I knew until I told me.
Yeah, because he's now another one. I mean, Flanagan uses Henry Thomas all the time now, isn't he? And Bruce Greenwood and Carlo Gugino and Carl Striken next.
Yeah, I do like he has his little ensemble. It's really nice. It feels like it's not something you don't really get that much these days. Around like a real. It's like since like David Lynch, probably having a group of actors he always brings in.
It's nice.
So it's just quite nice.
Yeah.
Especially because I really mentioned with Hush, it's so funny with like Sam Slow talking about midnight mass, which is like referenced in Hush, talking about the characters. Like, that's Bev talking about her own story.
And then a copy of Midnight Mass, the book, appears in Gerald's game.
Yes, that's right.
Isn't Carol Stuckian also in what's it called? Dr. Sleep as well?
Yeah, Carol Stuckian and Henry Thomas are both in Dr. Sleep. Then
Paul Shea is,
yeah, and
Kate
then Kate Siegel is in Gerald's game and Hush, so linking together.
I think she's in Dr. Sleep as well somewhere. I think.
I wasn't sure about that one.
But that's just nice. I think it's nice as his little Flanagan ensemble.
James, any closing thoughts on Gerald's game?
I just feel it's funny. This also feels like it's like a very small film, like what Hush was for, but also feels like Flanagan's expanding himself a bit, going a bit bigger. And I suppose if you're going to go bigger, adapting Stephen King is one way to do it. And it's the way this has been organized. It feels like it's an interesting evolution of the director as step by step. And yeah, I think this is just a pretty darn good film.
It's certainly easier King adaptations to do if you're doing your first, but it certainly took a swing.
Go big or go home.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's probably how he got the Dr. Sleep gig, I imagine. It's probably this from doing this, I imagine.
Yeah. So that brings us to, as Mike just said, Dr. Sleep. Huge deal, this, as it's the sort of sequel to probably one of the most beloved horror movies of all time, 1980s The Shining, with Stanley Kubrick, but that presents a whole series of issues because it's a King adaptation, and Andy's here, so I assume we'll get into that. So, yes, Dr. Sleep. I mean, I've set it up. It's a sequel, but what is the specific story in this one, Dr. Sleep from 2019?
If I may. It's a sequel to The Shining. We are, I think, it is 30 years later or so, and Danny, now just simply Dan Torrance, is kind of like dealt with his psychic abilities by drinking and becoming just a awful alcoholic. One day he ends up in a small town where he kind of starts to turn his life around. working in a hospice and kind of using his powers to essentially comfort patients who are dying, which is how he nicknamed Doctor Sleep, which is the title. And he starts to form a bond with a young girl called Abra, who also has quite powerful shining abilities. And then meanwhile, you've got this group called the True Knot, who are essentially like psychic vampires who starts kind of fixate on Abra because she is like the white whale for them. And so it's essentially Dan and Abra trying to avoid like basically get the deal with the True Knot before they get them.
Yes. I'm going to jump to James first because we've got 2 King readers in, and this is the kind of worms that I'm about to open. But James, before we get to that, what was your feelings on Doctor Sleep?
So I've seen this twice. I saw it when it came out in cinemas, and that was the theatrical version I watched then. I watched the director's cut recently to catch up for this, and both times I've watched this, I've just been fascinated at the many hoops Flanagan's had to jump through, because he's not just adapting a Stephen King novel, he's also doing it while evoking the original Stephen King The Shining novel and trying to bridge the gap with the more well-known adaptations that was from Stanley Kubrick. And for me, I'm really astounded at how he juggles all those balls, but he makes it work. And it's not just that he doesn't mess the bed with this, it's that he also makes the film feel like a natural part in his oeuvre. I mean, he's got the monologues, the hand trauma's there, Henry Thomas. It doesn't feel like when a director goes and does a big budget blockbuster and then you're like, is that really yours? Or that's the anomaly. This feels like it is a Mike Flanagan film. And
I mean, there's so many regulars in this, just scattered throughout. So I'm opening the can of worms now. Mike and Andy, feelings on this as King readers?
Well, to be fair, I've not actually read this one. I had the book for ages, but I've not actually read Doctor Sleep. But yeah, like James said, I think it is amazing that he's balancing so many different things, and yet it is definitely his film. But I think he's also, like I said at the top, he is like the king of our age, in the sense that I think there's a lot of similarities with their own writing. They're both of mixing sort of darkness with sort of sentimentality, and earnestness. And like I said in the summary, of like Dan's sort of reliance on alcoholism, that's something that Mike Flanagan addressed addiction in a lot of his shows, and I think that's based on, like, I think his brother had some sort of addictions, and that's something he's come back to again and again, and he's tapped into the metaphor really well here. I mean, the fact that for the first half hour or so is just sort of Dan putting himself together in a sense, before the sort of the plot in a way kicks off, but you don't really. You don't feel like it's sort of padding or it's killing time, and I think a lot of it helps. I think it might be the best I've seen Ewan McGregor. I think he's absolutely brilliant in this. I think he really sells that transformation, and that it's hard thing for him to do as well. He's taking on this role that's obviously iconic as a child, but you don't necessarily think of Danny that much as a character. So it's sort of imbuing a character, and obviously that's going to help with the writing as well. He's got plenty of material to sort of draw on for his performance as well. But I think his arc through the film, I think, is really, really emotional, really effective. And I think I like that it treats The Shining not as a place of trauma, as an event that fucked Danny up, and it doesn't have that reverence for it. It has fear of it, and it's a fun meta-ness to it. Of like, obviously, how do you approach a sequel to one of the most famous films ever made, or treat it like it's scary, treat it like it's a scary thing to even go near. And I probably could have lived without some of the scene reenactions, but I think I remember it bothering me more the first time, but the second time around, it's like, there's not actually that much of that, and I think it does.
Yeah,
I think
remember.
it like, and like I said,
yeah.
And it's never, and it helps. I think Henry Thomas is a good Jack Nicholson. He does, and I think it, and again, it approaches it as a source of fear. So it's not a nostalgic, oh, look, it's this thing. It's like, oh, no, it's that thing.
Yeah, not like a certain space set film that came out last year, bringing back a certain actor.
For sure. And this is all like right at the start of that sort of that nostalgic trend, maybe, or maybe just like in the middle of it. I don't know. And it sort of stands out because it's not fawning over the original or calling back for it. Like compared to like, It Chapter 2, which does a Shining reference for no fucking reason. So this is a Shining. This is Mike Flanagan tackling the material and telling his own story as well as these other stories as well. It's a real achievement.
Alex, I saw as another one of the regulars that appears in this.
Oh yeah, she was a great choice for Wendy. I mean, honestly, like the fact that he recast these roles and he chose such good actors like Alex Esso and my mind's gone blank. Carl Lumley.
He's great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Carl Lumley as Dick Halloran is so good. Like he's just this beautiful.
And
presence.
Jacob Tremblay's young Danny as well. I think it's Jacob Tremblay. I think as well. Who I didn't realize has cropped up in quite a few.
No. Jacob Tremblay. He's the baseball boy.
Was he someone else?
Yeah. We'll get to that.
Oh boy, that's great.
Oh my god, yeah.
So, Andy, yes.
Yes.
Within the sort of the tapestry of adaptation, I guess.
I think he was burdened with possibly the most difficult adaptation that will ever be for King, because Stephen King has always been vocal about how much he hates The Shining. I can understand from his point of view, like there is aspects of The Shining movie. He wrote it as, I think, essentially as being him tackling his own demons, and he saw a lot of Jack Torrance in him, and there's redemption for Jack in the original Shining book. But in the Kubrick adaptation, he's evil from the get-go. He's horrible, he's abusive, there is no redeeming features to him under Jack Nicholson. It works for the film, and I love the Shining movie, I love the Shining book as well. So coming into something like Doctor Sleep, and I know Flanagan spoke about the first time he showed the first screening he had it with the King estate and the Kubrick estate in the same screen, and they both loved it. So that shows that I think King's very appreciative of what he's done and how he's managed to tackle the issues that he had with the Shining movie. And I'd like if we can maybe talk about sort of book differences later on, because I think they're really interesting with this one especially. As an adaptation, it works fantastically well. It's a big book. The director's cut that James was talking about, I do prefer that. I watched the theatrical for this. I think the extra half hour just gives Flanagan more time to play with really great characters.
On that, it feels short as well. At 2.5 hours, it's such a weird thing to say.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to watch the director's cut. What is it? What's added in? I guess.
I think
I will probably check it out at some point.
They structure it into chapters.
Yeah,
one of the things.
Sense.
So it's like Zack Snyder's Doctor Sleep.
It is.
How dare you, sir?
No. It's I like Zack Snyder, but anyway, it for me, it's actually been a while since I've watched the director's cut, but I just know that I do prefer it. So I've got them both, and I watched the 4K. I've got Doctor Sleep on disc. The 4K is the theatrical, and the director's cut isn't in 4K. So I always end up watching theatrical, but just for vision reasons. But I do prefer the director's cut. It was an impossible task, and the fact that he managed to pull it off this well, the fact that it massively underperformed is really disappointing, because I know he had a third Shining movie in the works. But it's fantastic. There's no reason for it being able to be this good.
Yeah.
I love this film. I adore it. I've actually possible controversy time, because I've never been the biggest fan of The Shining, the film.
Oh, me neither.
I like the book. I read. I like. It was like I watched The Shining when I was like maybe 16, and it'd been so built up for me, and then I watched it and I was just like, oh, that wasn't scary. I just like didn't get the big deal. And one of the things was like Jack Nicholson just looked so crazy from the get-go.
I think it's one of those, if you see it as like your first horror, if like your Exorcist is your first horror, it's like, oh my god, that is terrifying. But if you come at it with a bit of baggage of watching this stuff,
I mean, I hadn't seen that horror, like not like I wasn't desensitized yet, certainly.
I think for me, I'd seen so many parodies of it. I'd seen so many references. I'd seen the Simpsons episodes of it, which Simpsons episode is just The Shining. They just do that with jokes. So I think I came to The Shining as like, it's hard to watch as a film. Because it's like I'm approaching it as this thing that I already know. So it's quite hard to sort of get past that.
I've always kind of said that I admire The Shining for its technical craft and everything. But no, as an adaptation, it falls short, I think, of what King that does with the book. And, you know, I saw that fully when I read the book. But something that I said about Dr. Sleep, the film, is that to say it fixes The Shining sounds really, but I would say it more kind of like it bridges King and Kubrick. Like it smooths the edges that have always kind of prickled me about The Shining. And it's like Kubrick sets a mood with The Shining. Flanagan tells a story with Dr. Sleep.
Yes.
But he also, like with like the callbacks, I would say the only one of the reference scenes that actually kind of takes me out of it is the scene in the office where Bruce Greenwood again is offering Dan the orderly job. It's the same as the office from the job interview in The Shining. I get why they did it. But at the same, because it's like it's all about like the character's journey. But that's the only one that kind of really made me go, oh, wow, yeah, you're doing this.
I didn't even clock that.
That's the thing. It's like it bugged me, but everyone I've mentioned it to has said I didn't even notice that. I was like, okay, well,
yeah,
but
that's interesting.
but one of the things I that's helped with that bridging the most is that basically the end of Dr. Sleep, the film, is the ending of The Shining, the book.
Yeah.
And that works. It works really well. I know that there is like a lot of other stuff that they cut out of the book for the film, but like for me, this just it feels right as the sequel to The Shining, and you've got a great cast. Yeah, like you said, Hugh McGregor, like rarely seen him better than this. You got some great supporting actors like Cliff Curtis. I love that guy whenever he turns up. And I mean, Rebecca Ferguson as Rose the Hack. Can we talk about Rebecca Ferguson for a minute? She's so evil, but she's just so very pretty. Even when she's got like blood all over her hands and she's digging a grave, it's just like, hey, what are you doing later?
A girl in the cinema says you're the most beautiful person I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like
cards on the deck there. Fair enough. It's a very different type of horror though to Doctor Strange, The Shining. The Shining
Doctor
is
Strange.
Very different type of horror.
It's very different. Doctor Strange. The Shining is wholly atmosphere led. Nothing really happens in The Shining, but the menace that happens in that building is very oppressive. Whereas this, it's more like the X-Men than a horror movie. Not to diminish it or anything, but it's all very superpowers led.
Although I will say that when it's obvious that they're going to the Overlook and it starts in with that dun dun dun, dun, like you do feel a bit of a chill. There is like a sense of dread kind of thing. And I mean, yes, partially that is Wendy Carlos's like score work. And I think it was so right to use it, and like the shot, it's like the opening from The Shining, and it's just love it.
It is a vampire movie though. At the end of the day, Doctor Strange, and there's a few sequences that make it quite a dangerous vampire movie, we have the sort of the scene in, well, 3 scenes, I guess. There's the one at the beginning that establishes who Rebecca Ferguson and Rose... Is it Rose the Hat?
Rose
Yeah.
the Hat.
Yeah, Rose the Hat. Rose the Hat is, with the little girl who tastes like flowers, which is just
Yeah.
one of those.
Yeah.
Wow, that's that's
It's like that's just really creepy.
She's called Violet as well, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
thinking of
played
it
by the little girl from Haunting of Hill House, who played Young Nell.
Oh, really?
Oh,
God, it's just
Funny.
jobs for the boys even more than James Gunn. Like jobs for the girls.
there's the one in the cinema with the girl who basically lays honey traps for paedophiles. And the sort of the big moment with the baseball boy, with poor Jacob Trimbley. Yeah.
Screaming his little lungs out.
Oh, I mean, I remember reading that Rebecca Ferguson actually, she actually found that scene really difficult to do because Jacob Tremblay was just going for it. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel awful doing this," because he was just, but he would just like they would yell cut, and he just kind of like sit up like, "Hey guys, what's up?"
He'd done room by that point. He's used to going through shit.
Yeah. But
Deeply upsetting.
James and Andy, what do you two think of it as a vampire horror? I guess is what it actually is.
Yeah, I can see. I also saw someone describe it as the best X-Men movie that's ever been made, which
It also is that, yeah.
Yeah, I think the True Knot are really interesting. Just, I'm sorry, obviously I checked out for a wee bit there, but just overall the cast in the movie I think fantastic. Like the even having Zan McLaren and everything, as Pro Daddy and such weird names, but it's brilliant. The True Knot just the way they've brought the lore of The Shining on, I think, is fantastic, and the vampire side of it, they seem worse. I know they can turn or kill, which is very similar to what vampires would do. But a vampire can kill someone in an instant and doesn't need them to feel anything. They just need the blood. The fact that, especially with the baseball boy, they need fear, and he needs to suffer, and he needs to feel pain, and that's a very dragged out scene. And possibly is it longer in the director's cut, or there's a chance there's maybe a bit more.
Yeah, minimal.
And it's the book as well. It's incredibly brutal in the book, and King's never shied away from killing kids. So for him, it's just another Sunday. It's a horrible scene to watch, even though I've seen it so many times. It never gets easier. And the vampire aspect, I think, is it's really interesting. They could have made it just taking someone's essence or something, which I suppose essentially they are doing. But the way they have to get it is so dark and so brutal, and I think it's a 15 on my disc, but it said it was an 18 on Now TV or whatever it's on as well, or something like that. So it's really interesting. But it's so grim.
It's like when they do it as well, it's almost an erotic thing for them, the way the body language is with it. It makes it worse.
They turn each other, don't they, after
they
it?
let him into the van. Sorry.
No.
Yeah, I was about to say about the luring into the van as well. Yeah. Just like he tries it just normally, and then it's just when they just suddenly opens the door, and the girl's there who can like just lure people in with her voice, basically.
Yeah.
Barry the Chunk, I think the character name is, which is in the book is he's got a racist name. There's a vowel changed in a very Stephen King way.
So
the book came out in like 2010s as well. He had no.
He's old man.
what's your feelings on the horror chops of this James of Dr. Sleep?
I think it's pretty darn effective as a horror, and I think what's really interesting is with the True Knot, the steam vampire family, you get a feeling of they have a sense of family and community between them, and it's really fascinating how when their grandpa he's losing his life, how they're all so sad and seeing him go, and it's quite touching when Rose the Hat is like telling him about all his accomplishments and the legacy he leaves behind. But then once he devolves into steam, how it's just a yes, exactly. It's like even though they're all family, they're essentially addicts to this, and which fascinating contrast with what Dan's going through as well.
Yeah.
And it's just horrifying the way they just don't even leave it a moment before they're devouring the last remains of essentially the patriarch of their family. And I think it's also, when you have all that set up, and with this, how close they are as family, how much they really mean to one another, is that when they're dying and you got Rose the Hat just reacting to every single death, I think it's, you really feel it. It's not like some films where it's just like, oh yeah, we're family, and you don't believe it. It's, you truly believe that it is pretty much killing her inside to feel all their deaths.
You get a
They
sense
die horribly.
with them, like there's a palpable sense of it. Sorry.
Sorry, carry on.
No, just that you they absolutely do. They feel like a family. They feel like a community. Like they've got stories that you don't really that we don't get to know about, but you know that they're there. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, especially the way they die, they just sort of like melted into the earth as well. Like, it doesn't look like a painless way to go. Anyway, either. So I think again, that's nice. It's not just like when they get picked off. It's not just like, oh, boom, boom, the body's dead. It's like, oh no, they're dying horribly, and
Phase out of existence,
it's very
isn't it?
Yeah, it's very satisfying if you want them to die. So. Just like punch the
I mean,
emotions.
yeah, we are
That
a
face
group of wandering child killers.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, that face off with Danny and Billy as well. When they're just picking them all off, that is fantastic.
Right.
And obviously doesn't end too well for Billy, but
Yeah.
with Snakebite Andy fight getting one last thing in, and he seems. He's a character that I really liked in this as well. She bought into the knot really quickly. Like, she's only been there maybe 10 years, because I think there's like an 8-year time jump or something.
Yeah. Something like that.
Between Danny starting rehab. So, but she's 100% in. But she seems maniacal. She's dying laughing, and she just makes sure he kills himself just before she goes. And yeah, just.
That's such a gut punch moment as well. It's just like when she says, "Kill yourself." It's just, shit, man.
Shit.
Yeah. All the deaths are painful, actually. Even like way Rose the Hat goes with it's the image of like the hand going under her skin. So it's like just
on the death thing. There's one part of it that feels unearned, really. The name. I mean, the whole idea of him being Dr. Sleep, or this sort of psychic cat who turns up at the bedside of dying people, and he just sort of guides them to the afterlife. It's a really tender moment in a pretty dark movie. It feels like there could be more of that, I feel. Not that it's a problem, it's just a nice sort of moment of rehabilitation for Dan, I think.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I guess that sort of happens before the dark stuff really kicks in. So I guess that sort of sets the piece at that point. I think then when it launches, he's in a place then where he's able to handle all the dark shit that's about to come out, go at him, basically.
I mean,
one thing I did wonder is
my headcanon is the cat's Dr. Sleep, not him. But that's just.
Oh, sure.
It was a good cat. That was a good cat.
Yeah, the cat was there first. To be fair, so yeah, he's the apprentice. The apprentice is quite
very good. Very good.
In a way.
Sorry, James, on you.
No, I was just going to say that it's actually a bit old school now to have the sequel just have its own name, because you just be something, not like Doctor Sleep, the Shining story or something like Glass Onion had, and it's maybe that's reflected though in its box office takings, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was always a stress, wasn't it? Because was this around the time that the last sort of outing for The Shining was that Steven Spielberg disaster?
Oh, Ready Player One.
Assault on the
Ready Player One.
Senses.
Oh,
Yeah,
jeez, that.
which just
probably.
such an offensive movie. But
Never seen it, thankfully.
yeah, this was not long after that. So yeah, still the sort of the cachet of The Shining all that time after, it's only horror diehards knew what it was really. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it'd been
it's,
The Shining in itself had been parodied so much by then as well, hadn't it?
Yeah.
Like you think The Simpsons and probably Family Guy at some point, I'm assuming, because they just do what The Simpsons do. Yeah, it's one thing. Excuse me, sorry. One thing I did wonder is there's one of the moments where Danny goes into a patient's room and he says, "Oh well, I know why you're here." Who's telling them? Because the only ever goes into people's rooms that are dying. Is he going about saying, "Yeah, by the way,
I guess
if
people know
you're
about the
worrying,
well,
then
people know about the cat, so I guess it wouldn't take that much more for that to cat. I know what you mean, though.
yeah,
How does a rumor like that spread about?
Maybe it's also like a bit of their own Shining, like their own little bit of Shining, recognizing that.
Yeah,
it could be. Yeah, I was wondering. But
him
again,
telling them that.
it could be the book, but it's not a part I remember from it. But yeah.
but
It's just one of those things you just sense, isn't it? I guess maybe.
with it being The Shining, a sequel, we have to talk about the sort of the big meat of that sort of sequel nature is when they return to the Overlook Hotel, which, as Andy has told me, doesn't exist in Doctor Sleep. They've sort of brought it back to life in the book, from the book.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's used effectively in here because obviously from the ending we get in Kubrick's Shining, it works well and it's not done. I think we were talking earlier. It's not. Oh, here's the Overlook. Like, this is brilliant. Remember the bit when he did the bit in the typewriter, and remember the guy getting sucked off by someone in a pig mask. There's not really like it's not a flashback, a callback sort of thing. You know, we've had a callback with the woman in the bath, and clearly Danny still gets haunted by the spirits of the Overlook. So we've had certain elements of callback there, but it's all it is used. It's used very well for Danny not to remember Jack, and I think that's quite an important distinction. Jack's there, Henry Thomas, but it's used for Danny to then have a hero moment, and there is obviously the callback on the stairs where it's Danny against Rose and it's Jack against Wendy.
I really liked that how they
effectively.
framed that. That was good.
Yeah, it was great, and it's not overly used as well because Rose is in there briefly and then she just gets destroyed. She's barely there.
I know, I forget.
And there's no sort of. I think she obviously has a sense of the place, but it's not. Maybe to simplify it a wee bit, if it had been maybe a superhero movie, she would have felt the power of the place and she'd have taken it in, and there'd have been a big apocalyptic event with some shooting up into the sky as she takes the power of the Overlook. And they use it really mutedly. And you get 1, 2, 3, 7 as well. But
it's like when she walks into there and you kind of like, she's like, okay, this place is kind of interesting, but it's obviously it's definitely a case of like this is too big for you, babes. Like, as powerful as we've seen you be, it's nothing compared to this place.
It's like in Hush, the villain underestimates what they're getting themselves in for, and and gets punished for it.
Yeah, I don't think we want to go too deep into it because it'd be very easy to spoil it, and more people need to see this one. Any feelings on Doctor Sleep that we haven't got across? Just to wrap it up, James, yourself.
Well, I probably don't want to spoil, but one of my favourite moments in the film involves later on when Dan's back at the Overlook and he goes to the bar, and it's like he's been trying to overcome his alcoholism, stay sober for all this time. We've seen the years pass by and he's remained steadfast, and this feels like his biggest hurdle, as though, and I think Ewan McGregor really does magnificent work capturing how Dan's holding on by a thread because he doesn't want to fall into the trap like his dad did. He's trying to deny temptation. And I think just that from there on, it's like his fears are exemplified of how what he could be like if he falls down the same destructive path his dad did all those years ago. And it's just, it's just really well done.
Yeah, I mean, all those moments where he's sort of fighting with his alcoholism are just, it's brilliant acting from McGregor. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean that scene in the bar where he's like essentially saying everything he's, I guess, always wanted to say to his dad, but he's saying it to this kind of facsimile of his dad controlled by the Overlook, and it's kind of heartbreaking, really.
Constantly repeating, "Take your medicine." That's what you're supposed to do. Anybody else? Any final thoughts on Doctor Strange?
I mean, Doctor Strange we could talk about. But...
Oh, sorry. I've done this since it was released. I've always confused
It's easily done.
Too many documents.
Yes,
I think
any of it.
One of my favourite scenes in it, I think, is when Rose is searching for Abra. I don't know, sorry, obviously I checked out for a wee bit. Did we talk about the hand trawler yet? We mentioned that?
No, actually we didn't.
Really? No.
Yeah, but it's before that. It's actually when Rose is searching for Abra and she's just kind of floating over the cloud. I think the sound design's really great in that. It's so quiet. But there's just a whisper kind of in the background. I think that's probably my favourite shot of the whole thing. And then she just gets catapulted back to where she is. Again, I think it's fantastic. I think Rebecca Ferguson's incredible in it, and she's pretty much great in everything she does. But I think this is kind of like a standout for me of hers. I would like to. I don't know. It's looking at the way that I've kind of went with the Shining and Doctor Sleep is the books and the movies live in my head the same, and just kind of think like addressing the changes can be quite. I don't want to go too spoilery, but like there's as I mentioned, there's no Overlook because the Overlook at the end of the Shining burns down. So they end up. It's just they go back to the ground. And now Stephen King is a very ancient Indian burial ground type of guy. He uses it quite a lot, so it's not too dissimilar to that. But there's now just a campsite, but they're on the grounds of the old Overlook in the book. And Jack, the spirit of Jack is more of a help in the final battle. That he actually is a saviour more than an antagonist as well in the book, which is really interesting way to take it, because I think Danny wouldn't have had that closure with his dad. And the big thing is the fact that Abra is Danny's niece in the book.
Yeah, in the book.
Yeah, so Jack has had an illegitimate affair. And is now but that kind of makes sense. She calls him Uncle Dan throughout the whole movie. And she calls him that in the book, and then it turns out that they are actually related in that way. So
yeah, Abra's mum is Dan's
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's interesting getting that, and the way they, without spoiling again, the way the Overlook ends in Doctor Sleep is basically a different version of the ending of the novel. The Shining, which is I think that's why King was very receptive of it, because it did take parts of it. And then also the fact is, we mentioned the Wendy and Jack scene on the stairs and Danny and Rose. Even just the scene with Bruce Greenwood's doctor and Danny having the conversation in his office. It's almost the exact same as when Jack's going through his job interview for the Overlook. It looks like the same room. Like in Flanagan, he's clearly a fan. Yeah. But
two people have noticed it then, yeah.
You're not alone, Sarah.
I was saying that basically of all the kind of references, that one with The Office was the only one that kind of took me out of the film a little bit. Kind of like when it happened, that was one that made me go, oh, okay, I see what you're doing, and it's all right, okay, well done, but let's carry on.
I thought it for me. I quite enjoyed it. But not because I didn't get through it in my face, but it is very noticeable, I suppose, yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's like I know some people who had a problem with the fact that we saw the elevator doors opening. I was completely fine with that. So it's definitely
just
different folks, different strokes, and all that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think they get the casting kind of down to a T, and the fact that he was able to make it into a semblance of a movie that made everybody happy, like, is testament to him. And I can't wait to see Life of Chuck. It wasn't my favourite story. And I've never actually read Adapt Tower because I'm not huge on fantasy. So I've read like King most now. He's not going so much horror, and he's sort of later writing. He's had a lot of focus on character who I cannot remember her name now.
Holly thingy.
Holly Willoughby. Holly Gibney. And she's done that. Holly Willoughby. She was in Mr. Mercedes. She was in Outlander. She had her own book, Holly. She was in Let It Bleed, in a short story, which was kind of more of a sequel to The Outsider. I might have said Outlander there. And he's going for more kind of supernaturally with a bit of true crime, not true crime, but a bit of crime novel-y sort of thing. Even Institution was a wee bit more like that. So he's moving away from that, but getting to the fact that, and he's not a guy that does sequels either. So getting something like Dr. Sleep and being able to have that sort of finality almost 40, 50 years later, whenever it was the year I wrote it, it's and Flanagan's just done so well with it.
Excellent. That feels like a nice stopping point for Dr. Sleep. So this is the question that I always hate asking because it feels so rude to ask it of active directors. But if he was to retire tomorrow, Mike Flanagan, he won't. Obviously, he's got movies in the bank and he's going to continue going for a while. But if he does, what is his legacy as a filmmaker? And I'm putting James on the spot first there. I'm sorry, James. But what is his legacy as a filmmaker, as it stands today?
He's been a very notable voice amidst what people have dubbed is it postmodern horror or what?
Elevated horror.
That's bullshit. That's the one. Yeah, I feel like he's in about years to come, we're going to look back on this whole elevated horror thing, and just I feel like Mike Flanagan's what he did throughout this time, I feel like I feel his impact's gonna come from there, and I do feel a lot of that's going to be in his TV work as well. Also, a bit more of a jokey answer, but monologues.
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, yeah. Anybody else want to take a stab at that? Because you can't do far. At least takes it. People will repeat each other. So anybody else want to take a stab at his legacy?
I would also say passion. Like, he is someone who gives 100% to whatever it is he's doing. Like, even like Ouija Origin of Evil, like he does not half-ass that film. Like, he kind of like gave it little kind of like flares to make it feel retro. There's like moments where even though it was shot in digital, they have like cigarette burn marks, like in a film, in like old film reels. Those happen at certain points in the film, and he didn't need to do that. And but it's there, and it's just part of like the film's texture. And even though I think that film does go off the rails in the third act, but yeah, so I think passion, like he absolutely cares about everything he makes. And I think he's also like, he's someone who I think is maybe more accessible to mainstream audiences, but also just knows his horror shit and delivers on it.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was literally about to say that I think he's accessible horror, especially with his TV. That's probably what he's going to be best known for, I feel. And I think that's perhaps why, like, when it comes to his films, people are like, "Oh, you know what? And he made some great films. Have you seen Oculus? Have you seen this? And have you seen Doctor Sleep?" And he brings that sort of horror that anyone can sort of. It's a great gateway into horror, but also, like you say, he knows his shit. He knows how to scare. He knows how to make you care.
He has some incredible jump scares, but he's not about the jump scares.
Yeah, the back of the car scene in Hill House.
Oh, that took years off my life. That one.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, yeah. He can do it. Yeah.
So I guess that. Anything to add to that, Andy?
I think it would be his ability to adapt a text and make it feel like his own.
Yeah,
so you're talking like that's two Kings that we've discussed tonight. He's got another two in the works, and I 100% feel that he will have more. I would have liked to have seen his version of it, as much as I'm a fan of Chapter 1 and 2 that were done by the Muschietis. I do like them. I think they were well done and well made. I think if he had got a hold of them, they would have been scarier. Certainly the second part would have been scarier. But then, yeah, I mean, the House Usher, Bly Manor, Hill House, stories that have been told 100 times over, and he's managed to put his own stamp on it and make them feel like you would watch it and say, yeah, that's a Mike Flanagan adaptation. His own stuff as well, yeah, I mean, it is still really great, and I think he is a very good writer. And you know, Midnight Mass had been a passion project for him for years. He was lettering it out through earlier projects for him, and Midnight Mass is certainly probably top 3 I push in terms of his TV stuff, but more likely top 2. And yeah, I just think in terms of being a writer is one of his strong points, and it maybe gets overlooked because you see Flanagan as director. And I've never seen Midnight Club. I didn't watch it because I knew it had been cancelled before I even found out about it. So I've just never went to it because it's going to end on a cliffhanger. But then I did see he released full plot of season 2, which was going to be the end of it, and he released the full thing on his website. So I might go and check that out and then read up on it. But just as a guy that's able to adapt just really difficult texts and put them onto screen in a way that does feel like it's his own, I think would be a thing that we get less with.
I feel like I'd be doing this episode a disservice if I didn't give you all the opportunity to talk about his TV stuff. So, I guess I'll give you a turn. Going through one by one, it might drag out a little bit. So just, let's each have a turn, sort of talking about his TV stuff as a sort of a general thing. So, James, the TV work. What's your feelings?
So I haven't seen Haunting of Bly Manor or Midnight Club. Haunting of Hill House. Okay, I'm slow with TV. With Haunting of Hill House, for some reason I watched one episode every few weeks. I think it's not a comment on the show's quality. I thought it was exceptional, but it's like every time I finish an episode I'd be like, wow, and then I'd go to bed, and then it'd be a bit of time because especially with Netflix, long episodes. But it's every time I came back to it, I was so enraptured by it, and goodness me, that was a devastating one as well. And I mean, the whole thing with the bent neck lady still keeps me up. It's yeah, but I also really like Haunted. Was the Fall of the House of Usher? I thought was really good. I mean, partly it's a grisly thrill ride to see such untempable rich people getting their just desserts, but the fact that it also manages to be heartbreaking as we just watch this car crash of this family unfold is really astounding, to be honest. But for me, Midnight Mass would be, I think that's my personal best work of his. I went into it that's one I actually binged in a week, and there's one episode which just set on a boat, which just left me in stunned silence afterwards, and I just thought that what he does across those shows is he gives them enough breathing space. He capitalizes on the characters so phenomenally in ways that I don't think his films allowed him the chance to do as well. And it's partly I think his best work is on TV, from what I've seen. And one project we didn't mention was that he's also developing a TV adaptation with Amazon of Carrie.
Yes.
And
Yes, yeah, forgot about that.
yeah,
Forgot about
so
that, yeah.
I'm very fascinated. It doesn't feel like, how dare you do this? This was already done so well. It feels like, to me at least, I can't wait to see what he does within such a span of time, so many episodes.
Oh,
Wasn't
agreed.
Carrie
Yeah.
Carrie was his first book, wasn't it? Stephen King.
Yeah.
So
And one of his shortest as well, so it'd be interesting how it stretches for a TV series.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing about Carrie the book is that it's parts of it are kind of like extract of articles and transcripts of interviews and things like that. So it's got this kind of almost documentary aspect to it.
Yeah. Found footage Carrie, I'll be down.
So, Sarah, your feelings on the Mike Flanagan TV?
I mean, yeah, I think it's like a bit like you said, Mike. He can scare, but he also makes you care. And I mean, episode 5 of Haunting of Hill House, the bent leg lady, I was kind of, the only way I can describe it in that show is because obviously I kind of figured certain things were about to happen, and I didn't want it to happen, but it was going. So that horrible inevitability of it, I was just sobbing with my whole body. Like, just the tragedy of it just kind of broke me. And then I love it. I love all the little ghosts in the background, all the little just things that really reward on rewatch. And it has such an atmosphere of creepiness, really. And like I said earlier, I was skeptical about Bly Manor, but then that just tells this most beautiful love story that still has a good few creepy moments. And then Midnight Mass, I would agree, is probably his best work. And I like that moment you kind of referred to, James, with the scene on the boat. And like 4 little words in that scene, I did my best. Like, it just had like a chokehold on my soul, basically. But I'm also probably as bad as you, James, when it comes to TV, because I've still not finished House of Usher. But I have watched it. I do really like the is it the Mask of Red Death with the kind of and the rain, just absolute horrific and brilliant. And you've also got like Mark Hamill playing this like creepy little weirdo as like the family solicitor. It's just like, we need to get Mark Hamill to play more creepy little weirdos.
Honestly, one of
He's
the
got
best roles he's ever done.
Yeah. Creepy little weirdos.
Absolutely perfect.
Yeah. Mike, TV.
Yeah, I think Is it Blind Man's astonishing because it has Garth Marenghi show up and he's great. Is he? Is it Hill House? I can't. I get mixed up.
No, it's
which one
Bly
he's
Manor.
in,
It's
but
Bly Manor.
it is Blind Manor, yeah, which is hilarious to me. He's just great with his actors, and I think TV shows definitely showed that off. I mean, he brought Hamish Linklater in Midnight Mass gives an absolutely incredible performance. I think Rahul Kohli was always he was on the social media going, he should be nominated for every Emmy, and he's like, yeah, he should have been. That was an absolute. And Rahul Kohli is also fantastic. He has one of the scariest moments in Blind Manor. There's a bit where he just suddenly looks to camera, which is absolutely terrifying. Yeah, I think you're right. I think I'm with you, James. I think TV is a really good form for Flanagan because it feels like he's writing. I mean, Mass Starters. I think he was going to make it as a novel at one point. I think he wrote it as a novel at one point, or was going to, and he does have that novelistic approach. I feel of giving every character something. Even if you look at Midnight Mass, which yes, I mean it feels a bit like his version of Salem's Lot, but it is also tackling so many different themes, tackling so many different characters' stories, but it's all sort of unified, all comes together really nicely. So that is probably I think I'll point out as my focus. I feel like his most cohesive, and it's the passion project that he clearly loves. He wanted to do for ages, so I think it makes sense that he put all his effort into making that as good as it possibly could be. Yeah.
The episode of Midnight Mass where he talks about what death means. It's just them two people talking. It basically made me tear me apart like tissue paper. That episode, very very brutal. But,
and the Midnight Club as well, which I don't think he's as involved, and I think he's directed a couple of episodes. I think he's mostly a producer, and I think it's mostly sort of other people involved in that. But it feels very Flanagan thing, and I think so. Even that way, he's sort of more hands off on it. You feel his sort of energy throughout, and it's and that's also quite moving. And I think that has a lot of fun with the fact that every episode being a different thing. I mean, that's what he's very good at as well, is making every episode even if it's a whole arc thing, certain episodes will feel unique. Obviously, the black and white episode in Blind Manor, and there's and actually Blind Man's got quite a lot of sort of experimental stuff as well. You got
there's in Hill House, the one with the one take cinematography and
So he's good at mixing things up without it feeling gimmicky. It's no, this is how we're going to tell this bit of the story, and it's going to feel part of the whole as well. So
Andy, thoughts on his TV work?
His TV, I think just what everyone said. I think TV is where he's at his strongest because he is such a sort of rich storyteller, and he goes into so much detail, and he's able to work it so well. Kind of what you were saying, Rob, with Doctor Sleep feeling a bit short. Maybe if Doctor Sleep had been a TV series, it could have been even better, and it might have got a bit more of backing from a studio. I think Midnight Mass is fantastic. Hamish Linklater he's now Batman, so he's knocking things out of the park. Well, he's the Cape Crusader. Captain.
The animated.
That one.
If you watch the animation,
He was very good then. Wow. That was a good TV show and it's good Batman.
That was really good Batman. Aye. So, no, I've not just broken exclusive that he's the DCU. He's working with James Gunn. And he's going to that, but I wouldn't be against that. I think he gets his best scares on his TV as well. But the Ben Neck lady is haunting throughout the whole Haunting the Whole House, but it's not just her. There's I can't even remember the name, what the character's name is, but the guy that floats with the walking stick.
I was about to say,
and
follows the drug addicted brother,
that just you never see his face. Yeah, something to do with that.
Or something, isn't it?
Aye, but he's always walking backwards, isn't he? And no, wait, am I getting mixed up? No, there's a guy with a walking stick, but then there's someone that follows the drug addicted brother. That's different, is it not? Am I getting mixed up?
I can't remember.
Is that the same thing?
It's been pretty recent to watch that one, but I think it's the same thing.
And then Sarah was saying about Bly Manor being a beautiful love story. It's fantastic. It's actually, I think, from what I've seen of his TV, it's probably my least favourite out of his shows. But that's not a criticism, because it's still fantastically well made, fantastically written, and it's heartbreaking. And then the Fall of House Usher is Bruce Greenwood monologues every episode and seeing rich people die in horrible, horrible ways. It's like the best version of Final Destination. And if there is any spirits out there that are willing to target maybe a specific South African in America, that would be great. But yeah, it's just he's able to convey long form storytelling really well, and it works to his strength, which I think will work really well with Dark Tower. Whether it'll work with Carrie, I'm not too sure, but I've 100% faith in him. The Dark Tower will be, I mean, if it works, it will span for 10 years. You're talking at least, well, with Event Television now, you'll get one series and then it'll be 4 years before you get series 2, and there's 8 or 9 books in the Dark Tower series. So,
yeah.
He's in demand, yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to keep going, but get him into more King stuff, get him into more adaptations of older texts, like, in terms of, if you want to, what I would like to see from him as well, actually, is maybe something in terms of Stephen King work. I think I would like to see him try and do Tommyknockers, because that was never a book I loved, but I think he would be able to do something with it. The Tommyknockers was to me really boring, but maybe in his hands it would work.
Yeah,
oh no, it's a terrible movie. It was an old, I think it was a 90s TV movie, wasn't it? That didn't have the cult status of it. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, nothing I can really add to that. But yeah, big fan of Midnight Mass. That is probably one of the best TV shows I've ever seen. I'll be honest. It hit me pretty damn conclusively on about 3 or 4 separate occasions. TV doesn't really do that to me, and I'm bad at TV. I've not seen any of the big sort of TV shows, so I'm worse than all of you, honestly.
The thing that worked well with Midnight Mass was, I think everyone kind of guessed early on that it was going to be vampires. You knew it was going to happen, but in a lesser TV show,
though, really, it was original with it at least, wasn't it?
Yeah. But you kind of able to guess, but a lesser show, because you've been able to guess that sort of twist, if you will, it would have lost you. But it still kept you in, and it's still, because it wasn't about the twist, it wasn't about the monster, it was about the characters.
Yeah, exactly. And that's pretty much a great summary of Mike Flanagan, really, isn't it? It's not about the monsters, it's about the characters. So, to wrap up, where can we find people? Sarah, where can we find you and the stuff that you do online?
Well, I can mostly be found over at Blue Sky these days, as I've fled the other place. And over there you can find me at, I can never remember my name on this one. Searching noises. Yes, I am at Sarah Jo Miles over there. In terms of my writing, these days I'm usually doing anime reviews over at Asian Movie Pulse. And yeah, just generally loitering around the socials a lot of the time. So, but thank you so much for having me today.
Absolute pleasure. James, yourself?
I'm on social media as well at RoddersJ04, spelt with 2 Ds. You can find me on Blue Sky, on Letterboxd. Don't go searching for me on the Hell site because fuck Elon. And my reviews and stuff can be found at thereviewingrodders.co.uk. So yeah, come check it out if you want.
Mike, yourself?
Yeah, best find me at Autistic Horror across various socials except that one. And also doing reviews for the Geek Show. I'm also on the Geek Show Patreon, going through the Twilight Zone, random episodes at a time, which is going been really fun so far.
It's been fun discovering Twilight Zone through you, because I've never seen any of it, so it's nice to discover something like that. And Andy?
Yeah, you can find me, unfortunately, on the Hell site. But I did suggest that Elon Musk should be burned in a hall of a Follow the House Usher style ceremony, so that gets me back on site. At Nowhere Andy. and on Blue Sky at Nowhere Andy as well, and currently on the Geek Show co-hosting with Cat Hughes. All of Us Are Lost podcast, a Lost Rewatch retrospective, deep dive, confusing Rob sort of episode.
I don't know what's happening. It's just words at this point.
Polar bears, man, that's what it is. It's just polar bears, that's all you need to know.
So very confusing. And you can find me. I'm still on Twitter, but it's just basically, I had that account for so long. I don't want to close it, but I really should close it. But yes, otherwise you can find me across social media at Uncut Robcast. And just to close the show, apologies for the little break they had between the end of the year review and now. Just life got in the way, and then it kicked me, and then it kicked me again, and it kicked me again. I thought, okay, yeah, let's take a little break, and we'll come back in a while. So here we are, and we'll be back next time with Korean Revenge. So a nice cheerful 180 for the next one that we're going to do. And just to announce what we've got coming up, because we're not doing what we used to do, where it's just basically the mystery of every episode. So next it's Korean Revenge, and following that we have 70s Nunsploitation and Pier Paolo Pasolini, but no Saulo. I'm not doing Salo ever. So that's not happening. If you want to watch Salo, watch it on your own time, listeners. But in the meantime, yes, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.